You know, we're here on the last day of this session. Republicans have decided to skip town. But what this debt ceiling debate really is about is the fact that they have run up a bill, Republicans have run up a bill that they now do not want to pay. They have run up this bill with extremely excessive military spending. They have run up this bill with extraordinary tax cuts for the wealthiest people in this country. And now when it comes down to time to pay for this bill, they do not want to pay it. And not only that, but they are accusing Democrats of saying we spend too much. For anyone that wants to entertain that thought, I ask you to think about the last time a person has said in this country that the government does too much for them, that their Social Security check was too high, that teachers are paid too much. When was the last time anyone has heard or seen that?
Gentleman's time's expired.
Thank you.
This is AOC holding Republicans to account not only for their absence while the U.S. is contending with default, but for their general stance during these negotiations. Republicans have decided that they would use the prospect of default to exact concessions from Democrats. And those concessions came in the form of a bill that's being called the Default on America Act. Just to give a few examples of what this would do, it would endanger public safety by cutting funding for over 2,000 Customs and Border Protection agents, 11,000 FBI personnel, and hundreds of local law enforcement positions, courtesy of the same party that spent 2 years slamming Democrats for wanting to defund the police. It would cut veterans' medical care, eliminating 30 million fewer outpatient visits. It would hurt public safety with 1,000 fewer rail safety inspections, 30,000 fewer miles of track inspected annually, and shutting down 125 air traffic control towers. It would hurt children's education, eliminating Pell Grants for 80,000 students, causing 300,000 kids to lose access to Head Start and childcare, and eliminating 108,000 teachers, impacting over 32 million kids. It would send good-paying American manufacturing jobs overseas by repealing clean energy investments from the Inflation Reduction Act. It would cut Medicaid for 2 million people, increase energy bills and raise taxes on working families, evict hundreds of thousands of families, older adults, veterans, and people with disabilities from Section 8 housing, and cuts rental insurance, and takes away food assistance from more than 1 million seniors and 1.2 million women, babies, and children. And finally, take away healthcare access for 2 million people via community health centers, disproportionately impacting rural areas. If you can point me to which one of those things is popular with Americans, I'd love to hear it. But Republicans know they have leverage because they know that the Democrats are fiscally responsible, something that they used to call themselves, and that they won't let the U.S. default. So they'll obviously negotiate in good faith. And Republicans, on the other hand, have no shame and no scruples, so they will gladly hold the economy hostage if it means they can use it to exact these concessions. And let's be clear, holding the U.S. economy hostage is exactly what they're doing. If you don't believe me, just listen to Matt Gaetz admitting it.
So would you say then the conservatives like yourself are becoming more pessimistic about the state of negotiations if, there's a bipartisan deal in sight maybe? Or how would you characterize the mood among your conservative colleagues right now?
I think my conservative colleagues, for the most part, support limit, save, grow, and they don't feel like we should negotiate with our hostage.
And the only thing worse than holding the economy hostage to begin with is the fact that they don't even care enough to show up while they're doing the hostage taking. Here's freshman Democrat Greg Casar proving it in the clearest way possible.
I'm Greg Casar. I'm a brand new member of Congress representing Texas, and I'm standing over here on the Republican side of the aisle, not because I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat, but I want the American people to see that there isn't any Republicans in the seats here behind me on the eve of our default. Where are the Republicans? This is not a simple political disagreement. This is a dire crisis being imposed on the working people of America. The American people could lose millions of jobs. You could lose your house. Your kids could lose their job. People can lose their savings, and they aren't even here. They want to burn the house down and blame the firefighters for the flames. They're listening to Donald Trump, who's saying, do a default. That is shameful. It is dangerous. There's no patriotism in this. There's no morality in this. And we just need 5 Republicans to sign on to the discharge petition with us to save the American people. We need the American people to speak up about why the Republicans are not in these empty chairs. The American people can save us. The Democrats are aligned and ready to avoid a default and make sure that billionaires pay their fair share and folks aren't kicked off their health care or deprived of food.
Notice how he says that this isn't a simple political disagreement, and he's right. This is a self-imposed potential economic catastrophe because the Republicans saw an opening to exact concessions. That's all this is. It's them threatening to crash the plane that we're all on because they know that Democrats won't let that happen. It is the perfect storm of a party of Democrats who are responsible to a fault and a party of Republicans for whom there is no floor. When we say that both parties aren't the same, this is what we mean. Kassar also says that the Republicans want to burn the House down and blame the firefighters for the flames, and that is the perfect analogy, because if the U.S. was to default, the only reason is that Republicans are refusing a clean bill to lift the debt ceiling, like they did 3 times under Trump, 7 times under George W. Bush, and 18 times under Ronald Reagan. So let's be perfectly clear, if this thing goes down in flames, the arsonists here are the Republicans. And of course those arsonists will point to the only responsible party in all of this, the Democrats, and pretend that this was somehow their fault, even though the only reason we don't have a clean bill raising the debt ceiling like we've had for our entire history is because of the GOP. Here's both AOC and Greg Kassar driving these points home even further.
I want to reiterate one point. The reason why anyone is asking anyone on this stage about what we would vote for is because Kevin McCarthy needs our votes. Because Kevin McCarthy doesn't have the votes. Because Kevin McCarthy is going to the White House without a majority of his caucus. He does not have what is necessary to negotiate. And for any question about what anybody would settle for, he has responsibility to concede. So if he wants any Democratic support, he has to come to the table. And we have seen him over and over again say that he will not negotiate, that they are engaged in hostage taking, not negotiation, extortion, not conversation. And that is not something we can establish. It is not something we can reinforce in this country.
That's scary. This is serious. Many people are talking about this as if it's just a typical daily disagreement between pundits and politicians. This is not a simple political disagreement. This is not a simple political disagreement. This is a dire crisis for everyday people in America. Every single person sitting here in this room. You could lose your savings. Your sibling could lose their job. Your kids could lose their house. People are going to lose their health care. For what? Because the Republicans have taken over. Kevin McCarthy refuses to stand up to Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and he is threatening the global economy, and it seems like he doesn't even mind if we go into default because Donald Trump has said, do a default. They believe that they can burn the entire house down and blame it on the firefighters.
And one more point worth mentioning, to build on what Kassar said, this is not a simple political disagreement. This is not normal, it's not politics as usual. The fact that the media is treating it as if it's some feud between the left and right is an absolute joke. The inability of our own media to be able to recognize that one side is willing to crash the economy that we all participate in is such journalistic malpractice that I almost don't have words to describe it. Look, it does not make you some rabid leftist to be able to have a bias in favor of not willfully crashing our own economy. Just like it doesn't make you a leftist to be pro-democracy in a democracy. And the fact that those things seem like partisan issues isn't a condemnation of anyone but the Republicans. If you needed any more proof that it's the Republicans who've gone off the cliff to the right, it's the fact that the media is now both siding the very concept of democracy to be able to stay in the GOP's good graces. So look, I should note that I do absolutely think that a deal will be struck to avoid default, if not entirely because one party, the Democrats, won't allow default to happen. But the issue at hand here is that the Republicans decided that our own economy, our dollar as the world's reserve currency, global markets, and the prospect of a 10-year-long recession was an acceptable negotiating wedge when it's not. To call that the most dangerous thing in the world is an understatement, and it is just one more example of the extremism that has pervaded that party. They might have coasted on this idea of being fiscally responsible up until now, but that's gone fully out the window by bringing us to the brink of default for petty partisan gain. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to this channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.